board actually took the step of adopting a formal resolution last Tuesday opposing it, and the reason we oppose it is because it allows the state to approve charter schools over the objection of local boards of education, and we feel like that power better rests with the local voters and taxpayers rather than an unaccountable appointed state commission. And we feel like the state has underfunded education now in Georgia for 10 years, and it would be imprudent and not feasible economically for the state to set up a system of competing schools without funding the existing K-12, education program adequately. So that's our position, and it was a unanimous vote, and I can get you a copy of the resolution if you'd like it.
Yeah, that would be fine. You're aware that Governor Nathan Deal has come out in favor of the amendment, saying it provides parents a choice besides sending their children to a struggling school. Are you not?
I'm aware of that, and I don't take issue with the intent here. I think everybody wants to make sure that the public education is as good as it possibly can. I just disagree with this approach. I think the people that need to be in charge of deciding, what schools are or not going to be are your local. That's where the state constitution puts it currently. I don't doubt that the governor has the best intentions in terms of trying to improve education around the state. I take issue a little bit with, I can understand if you've got, say, an urban school system where you have kids that are trapped in some of these schools. In our situation, we had 17 of our 18 Griffin-Spalding County schools make adequate yearly progress last year, which is about 94%. Our graduation rate's as high as it's ever been. Our scores are as high as they've ever been. Got good quality education available. Any child in our community basically can move around and go to any school they already want to go to within our system. But the commission that had been appointed based on the 2008 legislation was held unconstitutional by the Supreme Court of Georgia. The reason that our school system was a party to that litigation was because that commission was going to establish a charter school over in the Heron Bay subdivision in a gated community that was going to cost our school system $500,000. And that's a great example of why an unelected commission shouldn't be making those kind of decisions. We were talking about cost-cutting measures back in February. We had a list of things that our administration and cost-cutting committees had put together. And I believe there were 14 or 15 proposals. The only one that the board didn't adopt was closing down an elementary school. If we had had another school in our system that commission had approved, we may have been talking about closing down 2 schools. And the people that are in the best position to make those decisions are your local Board of Education who are on the ground trying to take the resources we have, the physical plant, the teachers, the existing resources, trying to make that work rather than just trying to have people, basically bureaucrats at the state level, get out here and try to decide what's going to work best in our community. So, if I were a parent or a taxpayer, I would want to be able to have somebody that I could call when I had problems, and I'd rather that be the person that I see at the grocery store, at the football game, or at church, rather than somebody that's appointed by the governor, the lieutenant governor, or the Speaker of the House, who's not going to care about Joe taxpayer down here in Griffin, Georgia.
So, am I reading you correct then when I say or ask you that the board, if it were on a different level or came to you in a different fashion, that you may be in favor of charter schools?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. We are not at all opposed to charter schools. Charter schools are a good alternative when it's appropriate, to use within your school system. And there are many, many charter schools around the state in existence today that were approved by local boards of education. and those charter schools are part of, school systems around the state. We've got Future Road Elementary School, which in my opinion is one of the very best schools in our whole system, is a charter school. So our board is not anti-charter school at all. It's a question of who is in control of approving a new school, and we feel like that power is better with the local Board of Education rather than an appointed state commission. It's really about power.
Mm-hmm.
And what I have a problem with, and I'm going around, I talked to the Republican Party the other night. I'm as much I'm a card-carrying member of the Republican Party. I'm as Republican as anybody, but a basic tenet of Republican Party principles is local control and accountability at the lowest levels. And to take the authority away from your local Board of Education and put that in a centralized appointed state commission is totally opposed with Republican Party principles, and I just disagree fundamentally with that approach. It's really a question of who is best in the best situation to make those decisions, and I believe it's the local Board of Education. The other problem we got with this, which we haven't talked about yet, is school resources are going to be diverted to for-profit management companies, which are going to come in from out of the state to manage these things. And if you follow the money, if you go on the Georgia Ethics Office website where you can research campaign contributions, and I can provide you with a list of the names of the biggest for-profit management companies in the country, you can put those in and run searches, and you can see that they've donated heavily to the campaign to get this ballot referendum approved. And the reason they're doing that is so that they can come in and divert taxpayer dollars to these companies. And as you know, you're an elected official. You and I are both subject to the Open Meetings and Open Record Act. Well, if a for-profit company comes in and is managing a charter school rather than a local Board of Education, that for-profit private company is not subject to the Open Meetings Law or the Open Records Law. And that is not transparent, and that, too, defies Republican Party principles.
Sure. Let me ask you this, Mr. Westbury. Has society taken this a little too far? And this is a question now, not a statement. Has society taken this a little too far and put our school systems under the heading of politics?
Oh, man, that's you go back, you can go back a long way, and there's some awfully ugly politics that have revolved around public education going back to the days of segregation. And I don't know that it's anything new to have public education be at the center of politics, but you do have an agenda out there where I think a lot of people want to have their kids isolated from the great unwashed masses out there in society, and what they a lot of times want to have is a private education that's paid for with public dollars. And I think there is an orchestrated movement that's been going on for many years to do that. And I think you see a lot of politicians that go out there and beat their chest talking about the failing K-12 public schools. And I do think that is used, the public schools are used something as a punching bag to the politicians nowadays. But I think what the problem that public schools have is we've got to work with the existing society as it is. And you've seen the family breakdown, you've seen moral decay in society, and you got a lot of bad family situations. And as an elected school board member, I deal with that from 20,000 feet when I set policy or approve a budget. But you got public school teachers that look that in the face every day. And we take care of all the children, not just the ones we choose. And our public school teachers go in and they've got to deal with that and provide the best public education that every child should receive and deserves. And I don't think it's fair, a lot of the cracks that politicians make now about our failing K-12 school system. And if you watch what's going on now, it's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if the state has the ability to set up a competing system of schools. With public schools, the state sets all the rules for us, and they control all the money. Well, if you're in business with somebody and they're your majority partner, and they decide that you're not doing a good job, and they make all these rules you can't comply with and cut off your money, and then they go out and set up a competing business to compete with you, but they control all the money and they control all the rules. Well, that's not a real fair, situation to compete in, and that's what I think is going to go on here. You're going to have the state, which has deprived the public schools throughout Georgia of resources now going on, probably 12 years. You're going to see that get worse as the state tries to fund these state-approved charter schools, and it's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy because that's going to pull more resources away from the existing public schools, and they're going to have a vested interest in making their state-run charter schools look good.
Listen, I want to thank you for taking time out to speak with us today and give us some information about the school system and the situation that the guys on the board are facing today.